Cousins, thank you for joining me on episode 2 of Small Boat Shorts. And this episode is about my rear bilge pump. My rear bilge pump I got on Amazon. It's a marine made, whatever that means, bilge pump. I opted for the 1100 gallons per hour model. Probably overkill, but it just sounds cool that I could shoot 1100 gallons per hour out of the ass end of my boat. I just think that sounds cool. Let me show you a few things about this. For starters, you're going to notice my fitment in the rear end of my boat is very tight and everything is ran in a precise manner. With this bilge pump, I've got a rear stow compartment here, okay? I have a hollow chamber behind that rear stow compartment that you can't really see from this angle, but what I've done here is you can barely see back there the plumbing for this rear bilge pump. I've tucked it in the corner. This box actually has a guide mounted to it that will guide water to the rear bilge pump. I've mounted it in the back corner to where this plumbing routes behind this box up and through, okay, then out the back. You'll notice a couple things here. Number one, my wiring comes out and goes up and is guided through this C-channel aluminum through the hollow chamber on the other side of my stow and up to the front and comes out here where everything will be wired in. Okay, that's 14 gauge wire that I've ran this bilge pump on. I believe I'm going to fuse it with a 5 amp fuse. I may do a little bit more research. Sorry that I'm not to that point yet, but I'm sure a quick Google search can tell you what to fuse a rear bilge pump with. Another thing you'll note is how it's mounted. What I've done here, guys, is I've taken a aluminum L bracket and I have screwed it into place into my rear stow box. Okay. And then I've taken a 2-part epoxy and actually epoxied this bracket to the top of the bilge pump, and it holds it in place. It's not going anywhere. It's wedged as far back to this as it can go and as far over to this as it can go. And this bracket is pushed down, screwed in, and glued tight and secure. And for a more professional look and just to dress it up, I actually applied some oil-based paint back over the bracket and over the epoxy just to give it a clean look. But that is how I secured the rear bilge pump. It's held up so far, and I like how it turned out. Now, one other thing with this rear bilge pump, before we get to this part of it, is that I'm not running a auto float switch. Reason being is I've had guys complain about their rear bilge coming on and off and on and off and sucking up power. In a tiny electric boat like mine, power is key. So I am running it off all the time, and it will have its own manual switch for me to turn on. There's pros and cons of both ways, but I've chosen to go with a manual switch on this setup. Just to avoid any issues with the auto switch coming on and draining power. I've notched my door to go over my rod holder and then over my hose. I used a hose kit that I purchased separate and a through hole. Now what I've done here is a little bit unique. I've cut a 2x2. Okay, the first thing that you want to do is take a hole saw or a paddle bit and drill your hole through a 2x2. Okay, and then what you want to do is take that 2x2 and then cut it to the length I dressed it up with some 22.5-degree angles and then rounded off some corners with the palm sander. Then I did some pilot holes through. All right, recessed some stainless screws, mounted it in, and then mounted my through hole fitting. And then I obviously painted this the color of the boat. I even got fancy and drilled a hole notch because I have my transducer already mounted. All right, so I did a little notch in the bottom of this to overlap my transducer wire and further hide things in this build. So that is where the water is directed out the rear end, as opposed to drilling a hole through here. I've mounted it this way. I like how it looks. I think it looks pretty cool. So that is it with the rear bilge pump. Thank you guys for joining me on Small Boat Shorts, where we like our boats tiny and our videos short.